For the past few weeks, Fallout 4 has been broken, and this time around it doesn't really seem to matter if you're on PC, Xbox, or hey, even PS5. Just about all users are impacted by this one, as several fairly fundamental features of Fallout 4 are quite broken right now, so I want to dive into what problems are here and even how to fix at least some of them, but also just take an overall look at the state of modding. Where's Fallout London, and is it safe to update to the next-gen version of Fallout 4 yet? Have you been noticing stutters or even just some weird frame drops in Fallout 4? Sometimes while playing, the game will just freeze up for a second, or even in separate cases, hitch for a moment and then yield significantly lower FPS for a short duration. Well, if you're encountering these issues, you're not alone. Tons of fans have been reporting major stutter issues following the release of the next-gen update, and that is one of the very important aspects of this. All of these issues only arose after the next-gen update, with many of these stuttering reports coming on PC and Xbox. And quite quickly with this one, users noticed that mods are to blame. Several initial posts were pointing towards the unofficial Fallout 4 patch. And in response to that, the author of the patch turned off comments for the mod page. And while yes, it is technically true that mods are causing this stutter issue, it's not actually their fault, because this bug originates with Bethesda. Because as many mod authors went searching to see if their mod was the cause of these widely reported stuttering problems, one mod author with Glitch Finder, which is a coincidence but a very fitting name for what they ended up doing, as Glitch Finder discovered that editing NPCs will now break your game. Or really, as many of you will encounter this, downloading a mod that edits NPCs. And a super simple mod was created to test this. Install it and simply run from Sanctuary to Concord and see what happens as you encounter all of the NPCs that have been placed down there. In this version, tons of NPCs are present, but no edits have been made to them. So while my FPS does gradually decline due to all of these actors being placed, I don't actually get any stutters and the game's still largely playable, just at a slightly lower FPS than typical. Conversely, having the exact same NPCs but with their face gen data overwritten, and this run all of a sudden becomes game-breaking. As you approach Concord, you'll notice several stutters will pop up, ranging from major to relatively minor, but upon entering Concord itself, my Fallout 4 had a major freeze before my FPS basically tanked to become unplayable. At first, I thought this crazy low FPS was just lag from the sheer number of NPCs placed, as there are nearly 300 raiders just standing here in Concord, but when you compare the performance on the edited version to the non-edited version, you'll realize, no, my Fallout 4 is getting 9 FPS here solely due to this bug that Bethesda introduced with the next-gen update, as when the NPCs aren't edited, my FPS remains relatively stable. And to make it even a bit more clear, you can see here, after spending a good 30 to 40 seconds with my game running at 9 FPS, eventually it does bounce back and recover, and I'm able to play at a lower but much more playable FPS. It just took a little while. And yeah, this one's definitely game-breaking. The intermittent stutters are painful, but you could somewhat work around those. This plummeting of FPS if you're around too many edited NPCs is simply brutal. This is a very extreme version of that, creating a very concentrated state for the game. But even if you're just playing organically, if you download enough mods that add in new NPCs or even edit many of the existing ones, you can start to run into similar problems to a lesser degree. And yeah, getting major stutters as well as huge FPS drops is definitely not a playable state and definitely doesn't feel very next gen. As far as a fix goes for this one, it's honestly a simple one. On PC, you just have to downgrade your Fallout 4, use the non-next gen version of the game, and this bug is no longer present, so you can edit NPCs all day without issue. Unfortunately for Xbox users or really console users in general, that of course isn't an option. So the only real workaround would be to go and one by one disable any mods that are editing NPCs, which yeah, that's going to be a lot of your mods. Even just things like the unofficial patch will now lead to stutters in your Fallout 4 if you have it active. The real fix is just waiting for Bethesda to fix this. Fallout 4 has seen some movement on SteamDB, so an update is likely being worked on right now, but we don't really know when this is coming. It's already been several weeks since the last update, and it definitely could be several more weeks until this one ships, especially with the summer showcase coming later this week. But for better or for worse, thanks to another bug, you may not even get that far, as even just downloading mods for Fallout 4 right now is presenting some new issues after the next gen update. This is a problem mainly for those on Xbox and PlayStation, where upon accessing the mods menu, their load order, or even just as you go to download a specific mod on consoles, you're met with the operation could not be completed error, and you just can't access whatever thing you were trying to access before. And this is a really really big problem. You can find hundreds of posts made about this over the last month, and for a ton of players, they can't access the mod menu at all, which for a console user effectively means you can no longer mod Fallout 4 until you resolve this problem. That's one group of players. There's another subset of users who can get into the mod menu, but upon trying to download an individual mod, you're met with the error. So you could download most mods, but there's a few that just aren't working for some reason. It seems like the core of this issue is actually a thumbnail problem, either because that mod has been deleted off of Bethesda.net, or just the mod's thumbnails aren't loading properly. So even though the mod data itself is working, these little images on the Bethesda.net page are broken, and in turn, you can't actually use that mod. So on one hand, the larger issue of these two is if you're using a mod that has been deleted from Bethesda.net, but you still have it loaded in your load order, it seems like for a lot of players, this is what's blocking you from loading into the mods menu. Basically, it's trying to load the thumbnail for that mod. It can't because it's deleted, and in turn, it can't load anything. But of course, since you can't access the menu, it also means you can't delete the problem-causing mod. You're kind of just stuck in this state. Some users have been able to work through this by simply using a guest account to access this menu, and then you could go through and delete any delisted mods manually, although you'll have to search for each of your mods on your own because it's not entirely clear which mods are delisted just from a glance. Unfortunately, that fix doesn't seem to work for everyone, and the more comprehensive solution for these operation could not be completed errors is to just delete all of your mods. So for many users, if you just go in and delete the 2 GB of mod data, it'll resolve this for just about everyone. Although unfortunately, it'll also delete all of your mods. So you'll have to manually go through and re-download these one by one. If you have them saved to your library, it's not as big of a deal, but overall, this is definitely creating quite the headache for Xbox users. And of course, if you do all of this, you delete your mod data, re-download all your mods, but then thumbnails bug out a second time, that would probably lead to you having to repeat the process, which obviously would be rather unfortunate. But even here, as many users are having issues downloading specific mods, you may not even be able to find that specific mod because there is another bug. After the next-gen update, the search tool on Xbox and PlayStation 5 broke. So for example, after deleting my own mod data, I needed to replace the cheat terminal mod because I had it loaded in on one of my saves. And what you'll notice is it is nowhere in this search, despite the fact that I typed in the exact name. And if you look, all of these mods initially shown to me are completely unrelated to cheats. They literally have nothing to do with cheat terminal at all. And as you scroll through, I even find the Russian version of the cheat terminal before the English one. This too is a widespread problem right now, where the mod search is just completely broken, showing things out of order and at times not showing things at all. For me, thankfully, cheat terminal eventually shows up as literally the last option. So even if you can download mods, you might have some serious issues finding the mods you want to download. Some users have had success with locating these via related mods or even just using the website on PC instead of using this mod menu on consoles. And even still, that's not everything. On consoles right now, VATS is fundamentally broken. VATS is quite literally a wall hack. It'll target enemies through walls, despite that wall blocking all of your shots from actually hitting them. And while some of the accuracy problems have been resolved, you will still frequently see VATS hit chances dart back and forth from 0. So sometimes it'll actually block targeting an enemy because it'll incorrectly read as a 0% chance to hit. As well as there's just some general crashing on consoles right now. There's an issue with Fallout 4 where the Pip-boy's interface data can get corrupted, and in turn lead to periodic crashes even if you're not using any mods for the game. Although thankfully with this one, Bethesda support has responded and it will be fixed in the next update. And the absolutely wild part about all of these issues for Fallout 4 is these are just the unexpected issues. Many mods on PC are still fundamentally broken. We knew this would happen with the next-gen version, but in addition, there's a ton of other problems popping up for PC and console users alike. Because then of course on top of that, there's also just a bunch of broken mods, particularly affecting PC users with those DLL mods. And you're going to have this back and forth for the foreseeable future where, okay, Fallout 4 has a bunch of bugs. It needs another update. That update will come out and end up breaking DLL mods or just making all of their updates take a little bit longer. Although thankfully, these follow-up updates will be much easier to adapt to compared to that initial, very large next-gen update. But even as it stands right now, a ton of mods aren't even updated for the original next-gen patch, let alone some of these subsequent updates. It has now been nearly 6 weeks since the next-gen update released, and major mods like Buffout 4, one of the most important crash trackers currently available for the game, aren't updated. It's not currently working, and there are a ton of players with very large load orders on PC that aren't going to play without this mod. Another big example is the classic holstered weapon system. Definitely not as critical, but it's still a pretty essential mod for a ton of players who got used to this feature, and this too has no ETA on when it'll be updated. But perhaps the one that's becoming most important of all is the extended dialogue interface. Rather than just using the smaller dialogue response options that are in vanilla Fallout 4, this will bring back the full response options, so you can actually see what you're going to say, and many DLC-sized mods require this one to work, including Fallout London. Rumor has it right now that Fallout London is waiting for XDI to update as one of the last major hurdles before Fallout London itself can release. So now, thankfully, a beta update for XDI is already available on their Discord, but of course, as soon as Fallout 4 gets another update, this too will be out of date and require further patching. But this should only be a slight delay. Fallout London is releasing on GOG due to its massive file size, and to go along with this, GOG hasn't updated their version of Fallout 4 to the next-gen patch yet. And in a recent interview with the project lead of Fallout London, we got to hear about their status and some of their updated plans for the mod. This interview was posted the same day we get the last smaller update for Fallout 4, and they commentate on those. Smaller Fallout 4 updates shouldn't cause too much of a challenge for our team. While we strive to maintain compatibility with the latest game updates, the sudden rapid changes in the game's codebase can require additional adjustments on our end, so we're doing our best. However, we're committed to providing ongoing support for Fallout London to ensure a stable and enjoyable experience for our players. So thankfully, some of these smaller subsequent updates aren't as big of a roadblock as they otherwise may be perceived as, and Fallout London may very well end up releasing for the old gen of Fallout 4 anyway, the whole thing they were avoiding in the first place. We are being tempted by community feedback to launch on the old version alongside the new version, but this isn't set in stone as it would effectively double our release workload. And honestly, I think this one's going to make a lot of sense. As things exist right now for Fallout 4 on PC, many phenomenal mods are just not updated to the next gen version. Mods like Buffout aren't really optional for a ton of players. They are very powerful tools that are really essential for maintaining a large load order. So it'll likely be a long time before all of the players actually update to the next gen version of Fallout 4 if that ever happens, and for a long while I think a lot of people will just be recommending that everyone downgrades. As of right now, most hardcore mod users are on the older version of Fallout 4, and it'll be like this for the foreseeable future. It's already been 6 weeks since the next gen update released, and we aren't even close to all of the core mods being updated, with many of these having no ETA at all. And not to mention, even if Fallout London dropped today, it'd still be broken. The next gen update is fundamentally broken. Any mod that edits NPC data, which Fallout London most certainly does, will trigger this stuttering issue, so very likely that would be a problem with downloading this mod. With that in mind, this is where Fallout 4 stands right now, some of the ongoing issues with the game, but also some of the potential fixes for those, as well as where things will continue to evolve in the future. But if you're interested in more mods for Fallout 4, check out this video.